Okay, today we're going to continue talking about well, the last theory for the origin of the species, the evolution theory. So there's a kind of misconception. When you ask people in the streets or something like that, outside the science environment, they tend to think that the theory of evolution is the same as the one that Darwin stated, like 50 years ago. But well, it is not. It has changed a lot over the time. I mean, the basics is more or less the same, the idea, but the explanation have evolved somehow. So the first thing that I want you to notice is that, well, first it's called the modern theory of evolution, and second, we got at least 10 scientists involved in in this theory. Like in the beginning, when we started to come up with the pieces of the theory of evolution, well, yeah, Darwin was the first one, but then thanks to the work of Mendel, we come up to something more. We got Wright, we got Fisher, Hansky, Johansen, Sanderson, Huxley, Meyer, and Simpson. Well, G.G. Simpson, you can look over the internet for all of them. So those are scientists that somehow they give new ideas, new insights to the theory of evolution. And thanks to them, well, we are able to understand new ideas that we weren't in the past years. Well, the theory of evolution involved four basic uh, processes. Let's say it like that. So we have mutation, variability, natural selection, and reproductive isolation. So when we are talking about the theory of evolution, the modern theory of evolution, we are going to give some emphasis on those four aspects of the of the theory of evolution. So we have first the mutations. So the variability that we experience right now in the species that we know today, it is, and well, it will be thanks to the mutations that happens over their production. You can see that over a bacteria when they well evolve. That's the idea, and they are no longer susceptible to one specific antibiotic or drug medicine that you take. But in a larger way, we have that over the population. Remember, when we are talking about evolution and the modern theory of evolution, it doesn't mean that, yeah, I am a monkey and my kid looks like a human being. No, we are talking about very, very, very small changes over the several years, a lot of years. Because of that, well, we come up with new species. Normally, this process is like a balance between all the species. There's no direction of that kind of changes. Uh, but we, as a human species, we were able to actually shape the environment into, well, and make evolve some of the species. Yeah, we have the, for example, if you go to a farm, you can look at the chicken, you can go and look to the cows and pigs. None of them were like that, like 100 years ago or 200 years ago. They look too different. If you're talking about a turkey, that the one that we eat today, well, it is not even able to actually reproduce by their own. They need a little help from the human beings because they are so fat for that purpose. And well, the pigs, the pink pigs that you can see in any farm, well, those are actually well, we come up with that idea. And also the dog, that's another example of how we divert the mutation. That's what we know as artificial selection. But that's like a general idea that we have in here with evolution. It doesn't mean that we come up with the dog, the Chihuahua dog from two wolves. No, it was a slow process. If you look picture of the dogs over the years, you can see how that process changed over the time. And well, it, it is like that with evolution. So mutations, very small mutation, they change how the species look, but in a very, 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 very small kind of way. We got the other one, variability. It has to do with that mutation. Yeah, in a species, we got a lot of specimens different from each other, but not that much difference. Because of this, well, we will be able to survive as a species. Um, for example, all the human beings, even if there is a disease that will be the worst case scenario, I'm pretty sure that there will be a good number of people that will be able to overcome that disease because they don't have natural defenses because of this variability that we got as a species. If we're talking about HIV, yeah, we have people that is immune to HIV because of this variability. So in a species, well, the more variability that you have, the more tools you have to survive uh, for time for that mate, for that sense. Natural selection is also another process for evolution. In this case, remember we are talking about something that is opposite to artificial selection before the human beings appear and start messing up the environment. Natural selection is this equilibrium that well that will happen among the members of the semi-osmosis system. How they evolve together to fill all the niche of the ecosystem. So if you're talking about environment, a specific environment, you can see that there are some species of plants, animal, whatever, that will fit into that environment so good that, well, you cannot imagine that environment without that key organism. But that causes natural selection. All of them are coming together and they are like filling the gaps between each other. Darwin discovered that when they go to an island, Madagascar, if I'm not wrong. We got several species of birds. They have different peaks for whatever they were supposed to eat. And well, this is how nature fills the niches. We got a lot of competitions about one specific food source. Well, the animal, the species is going to, because of the variability, is going to be able to differentiate into a different shape of face or whatever they have in order to, well, actually can to actually eat from some or where else, from some other food source. So that's also with natural selection and reproductive isolation. That's like the main idea when we're talking about the modern theory of evolution. Reproductive isolation is the main reason, is the fastest way for nature to actually make two different species. So imagine that we have something like this, two species, well, one species that live in a specific place, but for some reason they got separated. Let's just say that one of them traveled to an island and the other one stayed in, well, in the mainland. After several generations, they are going to accumulate a lot of mutation, so much that for them it will be impossible to reproduce with each other. That way, we got a new species born. That's how we actually can tell one species from another if they are not able to reproduce naturally and their offspring are not able to, well, they are sterile. Like if you come together a lion with a tiger, well, the offspring won't be able to have kids, offspring. So that's not the same species. So we got that in nature because of reproductive isolation. I got a pretty drawing here. Since their mating sites are different, they can no longer reproduce. Well, reproductive isolation, the definition that I got here that you can use them, refers to an ability or related species to breed, and because of that, well, they are going to evolve into different species. Um, Here we got um, I think it's a sea donkey. Um, well, you can look for that. Yeah, we can combine a zebra with a donkey, a zebra with a horse. From that, well, we have different species there. Well, different hybrids. That's the word we are going to use, hybrids. But this is not a new species because that little sea donkey is not able to reproduce. So that will be the end of the story for them. Additional process, these are like the main process. If I ask you that in the exam, this mutation, variability, natural selection, reproductive isolation, that's like the main process of evolution, the most basic ones. But again, we have something that we can add on. Migration is one of them. Because of migration, we can have reproductive isolation. So Yeah, that's one reason for having two different species. Hybridization, that means when two species that are not that closely related, but they are close enough to reproduce. And well, thanks to that, they can come up with a new species, with new organism that maybe will be able to reproduce and come up, well, and be a new species. We, the human beings, are not 100% Homo sapiens. That's something that we know since like 20, maybe 30 years ago, when we start working with the DNA. Well, we had studied the our DNA. Europeans, for Europeans, very common for them to have these little pieces of Neanderthal DNA, so they are hybrids from a Neanderthal and a Homo sapiens. Um, some advantage that they have, well, they can drink milk for sure. The other one is genetic drift. For that one, I got this example here in my presentation. These little jars with pebbles in there. We got the red ones and the blue ones with two or one dots. So what is happening is that every time a species reproduces is like at random. I mean, if you're on the outside, if you are in the jungle, there is no like um, a community that will protect you and will ensure that you produce. Um, so yeah, not everyone will have kids, and because of that, the species will, and the mutation that will appear in the species will follow a specific line. Let's just say that maybe the biggest animal is the one that will able to reproduce. So the size of your species, it will increase because of that. um, Maybe the most aggressive male is the one that is going to reproduce. Well, the offspring will inherit that specific trait. So that's genetic drift. Because of random reasons, maybe the one with the best genes died, and well, the other ones were the one that able to reproduce because of random stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to do with the gene specific, but maybe a tiger ate that monkey, and because of that, well, we human beings are well exist like for that. So we got genetic drift. Okay, and then before we go, yeah, I think that this one is the last one we are going to consider today. Um, with artificial selection. Artificial selection is a form of selection in which humans actively choose which traits should be passed on to the offspring. We decide which one are like good genes and which one are not. For many years, we have been speculating that what we have done with the wolf is to actually keep it in a like a puppy for longer. If you look at a wolf and you look at the dog, you can see the difference. The wolf got these aggressive looks, and it will be more aggressive. It won't be near the human beings as much as any other animal. Um, yeah, maybe you can play with one or two of them, but at the end, they are wild animals. You cannot actually have it like a pet in your house, in your home. um, but the dog is different. The dog is more like a puppy. He likes to play, and he got this special relationship with the human beings. They actually consider themselves as like their moms or something like that. So they have to be with us. They are stick together with us. They prefer it that way. And well, we have two of them, the positive or the negative selection. If we come up with a trait that we don't like for some reason, yeah, we don't allow that dog to reproduce in this case. And the positive selection, it means that if we come up with a new trait that, yeah, I like that trait, so we only allow that to reproduce. Um, if you ask me, artificial selection, it got this trouble. Thanks to that, we have some species with some dog breeds that they don't have that much variability. It's just like if they all are like brothers, and they have some genetic troubles because of that. So I think that I will end up here. I just wanted to make sure everyone well get the main idea. Um, for this activity, okay, so yeah, the activity for this from this video is to make a little summary about this, a little infographics with all this information. I mean, it's not that much information. Be sure you include artificial selection, this additional process, the immigration, hybridization, genetic drift, the basic process, mutation, variability, natural selection, reproductive isolation, and the name of the scientist. It's a little infographic. Just make sure that you include all that. I want the artificial selection in there so we can complete that. Let me stop